Hello everyone. So in this video I want to discuss about judgment and how we relate to others, how we act with others. Judgment is judgment. I mean, it's a common word, and in this case it kind of has the same meaning as it usually has. The idea behind judgment is, so why do we judge? We judge because we have a belief or we have a story in our mind about how things should be or all things are or whatever. We have some kind of story in our mind that we believe, and this story creates an imagined reality. So let's say you believe in Santa Claus, and then basically you kind of create an imagined reality containing Santa Claus, and then you compare the imagined reality that comes from your story with the actual reality you experience, and you judge the difference. You say, well, the reality in the imagined reality, the reality in the story is better than the actual reality, so something is wrong with the actual reality, blah, 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 blah. You judge the actual reality, but you judge it based on nothing, because this is just imagination. The idea that things should, the idea that someone deserves, the idea that someone is something specific, the idea that things could be different. It's like, I mean, look at the video, there are specific videos about this. But basically, again, we have a story, we use the story to create an imagined reality, we compare the imagined reality with the reality, and then we judge the reality by comparing it to the imagined reality, and usually we feel bad, we suffer, let's say. But most of those stories are just stories, and when we realize they are stories, they drop, they disappear, and then we stop judging. But what does that mean exactly, that we stop judging? It means this. It means that we stop comparing what is with our imagination. So we stop comparing reality with imagined reality. That's what not judging means. It's not an effort, by the way. So not judging is not the result of effort, it's the result of understanding. It's not that you focus and you say, I should not judge, I should not judge, I should not judge. No, is you understand that the story is a story, you understand that the story is just a story, the story drops, and you cannot judge even if you wanted to. Like, for example, let's say that, it's just an example because I think it's a good one and it can help. So someone does something terrible. Now, it doesn't mean you have to like what they're doing. So if someone does something terrible, you may be tempted to judge him as in to say it could have been different, or he shouldn't have done that. But if you understand causality, if you understand that the idea of agency as in a small part of our brain, like independent from causality, immune from causality, if you understand that probably if you were at the place of this person, like his education, his body, his brain, his parents, his school, his experience, you would have done the same. And what is you anyway? So the point is, it just happened. So someone did something horrible, to you at least. But let's say something quite, let's say murder someone. So most people will agree that that is terrible, unless there is a very, very strong reason. But in general, most people would agree that it's terrible. So not judging doesn't mean to say it's okay. It's not. Not judging is just not creating a story that say that it shouldn't have happened, as if there is an alternate reality where it didn't happen. It could have not happened, as if there is an alternative reality where it didn't happen. So not judging is this. It's just not producing an imagined reality coming from a story and comparing and saying that it should have been different, it could have been different, the victim did not deserve that. But deserving doesn't exist. It's not about the victim, it's about the fact that deserve doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make any sense, as the joke I made multiple times, I think on a previous video, and it comes from a very nice book, but I forgot the title. It says, the plane flies because it deserves to fly. I mean, that's what deserving is. It doesn't make any sense. So if we believe in deserve, then yes, the plane flies because it deserves to fly. So things happen because they deserve to happen. But then we can just remove the word deserve and say things happen because they happen. Basically, it's the same. So the word deserve doesn't mean anything. The word should doesn't mean anything. What does it mean? An imagined reality where things went differently, but what exactly made them go differently? Because it's all based on causality from the Big Bang to now. So yes, this guy is bad and he killed someone else. That's terrible. We all agree it's terrible. It's terrible for the victim. It's terrible for everyone. So should we not judge? Well, first of all, there is no should we not judge, because there is no should. Should is also a story. So the problem is that most spiritual gurus, or most people in general, even by themselves, they may be misled into a path where they think that it's about the fact that they should not judge. But should not judge is just a story. You're building up in your mind a story that you should not judge. You're not removing a story, you're adding a new story. Should not judge is adding a new story that you should not judge. Ideally, you want to remove whatever story creates an imagined reality and produce the judgment. So it's not really about should not judge. That's a terrible idea. That's an extra story you will have to remove eventually, because then why you should not judge? If you judge, it's because you believe in a story. It's actually catching yourself judging is a very good, let's say, trigger, is a very good signal to tell you that you still have a story somewhere every time you judge. And the goal is not to should not judge, to stop judging actively, but rather to understand what is the story that is just a story and to remove it. Again, let's say someone does something terrible, and let's say it's a murder, so everyone agrees, it's a simple crime that everyone agrees that is kind of bad, and we clearly don't like it. And the victim doesn't like it, the family of the victim doesn't like it, society doesn't like it, and we don't like it, let's say. But it doesn't mean we judge it, but judging it just because, even if we say it's good and bad, what does good and bad mean? I mean, we can say that we don't like it, but good and bad will imply there is some kind of absolute morality. It's neither good nor bad, it's just what happened. And probably there was nothing else that could happen. Because again, if we go back to the past, to all the events that caused it from the Big Bang, if we remember that if this person had a specific childhood, a specific body, a specific brain, specific experience, a specific family, went to a specific school, and all those things led to that event, there is not really a fork in the universe where there is one side that leads to that event and another side that doesn't. Most likely it's a continuity from the Big Bang onward. So from the Big Bang, there is a continuity that led to that moment. And that person committed the murder, and that's terrible, of course. So not judging doesn't mean that we like it, that we agree. We may very well hate the person. We may profoundly dislike the person. And I will continue to explain that we could potentially decide to hurt the person, to harm the person. But that doesn't mean we are going to judge the person, because judging is not, it doesn't mean, not judging doesn't mean that you say, oh yeah, it's okay what you did. Absolutely not. It may be this guy has to be punished. Let's put him in jail, or maybe in the older times, someone will kill him. So maybe, so the thing is, there is judgment, which is imagination, imagined reality coming from stories, and then we compare reality and the story and the imagined reality from the story. And then there is preference, what we like and what we don't like. Now the preference can very well be shared. It's like we probably don't like murder, and probably no one likes murder, or almost no one likes murder. So if that guy does something terrible, we may very well decide to hurt him, to harm him. But not because we are judging him. I mean, or at least depends what we mean by judge. We judge him to the extent that we say, we don't like what you did. And so we may decide to punish him, if we can, if we have enough power to do it. But when I say we don't judge, it just means we don't create an hypothetical, an imagined reality that was different, where let's say this did not happen, and then we judge reality by comparing it to the imagined reality, and we say something is wrong with reality. The judgment, in some way, if you think about it, is never about another specific individual. The judgment is about all of reality itself. When we say this shouldn't have happened, this could have not happened, the victim did not deserve this, whatever deserves mean, Um, so when we make those stories, we are not really judging the person, because the person is completely connected in every way with the reality. His parents, like that, made his body, gave the early education, the school, his experiences, his friends, the people he met, and then all the events that happened that led to that event, like let's say a murder in this case. So it's completely interconnected. There is no point where you can separate the individual that did the crime and the rest of reality. It's just one big thing. From the Big Bang to now, it's just one big thing. So judging, when we are judging, we are not really judging an individual. We are judging the entire reality. We are saying something is wrong with reality. This shouldn't have happened. This could have not happened. So we create a story about some alternative, and we compare it with the reality, and then the judgment is the result of this difference between reality and imagined reality. This is how it works. So we don't really judge the person, because what would that mean? I mean, unless the judgment is, I don't like what you did, and that's fine, but that's not, I mean, it's not the way I intend judgment. So the way I intend judgment is a judgment about all of reality. Now, of course, we may very well look at that person and say, what you did is terrible. And we may even decide to punish that person. It could have crossed one of our boundaries, or even someone else's boundary, like murder is kind of the ultimate crossing of boundary. Now, in this case, the murder is, let's say, to someone else. But still, we may say that's unacceptable that this person crossed someone else's boundary by murdering them. We have to do something. We have to hurt them. We have to harm them. We have to destroy them. And that's fine. That's not judgment. So you may destroy someone, but you don't judge him. And more specifically, when I say judge him, it's technically wrong, because we are not really judging him. We are not judging anybody. The judgment is always about the whole of reality. It's about all reality together as a single thing, because there is no real distinction between the individual and everything else around him. It's kind of the same, just like the Big Bang produces everything. Everything is the result of the Big Bang, and everything on Earth, but in the universe, influences every other thing. You cannot really separate the individual from the rest. So technically, you cannot really judge the individual. What you are judging is the entirety of reality. But you may dislike that specific action that that person did. You may profoundly dislike it and decide that you want to harm the person, to hurt the person, to destroy the person. But you will still not judge. If you understand that judgment is story, you will not judge, because it's just a story. So you can only judge to the extent that you have the stories. Once you realize that the stories are just stories, then you drop the stories, and you cannot judge even if you wanted to. There is no conscious effort to put in not judging. It's not about practicing non-judgment. That doesn't make any sense, because it implies that one should not judge. But should not judge is just another story. That's not the point. The point is not to add another story or to do a conscious effort to focus on not judging. What's the point of that? It's like, I don't believe in Santa Claus, I don't believe in Santa Claus, I shouldn't believe in Santa Claus, I shouldn't believe in Santa Claus. That doesn't make any sense. We stop believing in Santa Claus because we realize it is not real, that the story doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, there are too many contradictions. Plus, we have never seen it. So we drop the story. The idea that there can be an alternative reality where certain things didn't happen, or they should have happened, or whatever, it doesn't make sense, because it assumes things that are impossible. Like, for example, it assumes that certain things are immune from causality, like in our brain, that our brains are immune from causality. They have free will. Internet has free will. Free from what? Free from causality, free from the laws of physics. That doesn't make any sense. So we drop a story because we realize it doesn't make sense. We don't focus on not judging. We don't do a conscious effort to not judge. We don't believe that we should not judge as a new belief on top. So not only we believe a story, and then we judge, and then we build another story on top that we should not judge. That's not how it works, or at least that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to realize that our stories are just stories, and then remove the stories. But then what about the person? He does something terrible, he does something we really dislike. We can very well decide to hurt him, because why should we judge ourselves? We don't judge reality. We don't judge the other individual, even if it's more about reality than the individual. So why will we judge ourselves? If we profoundly dislike what that person did, we may very well decide to hurt him. And why should we judge ourselves? Why it should be right or wrong to harm someone? It depends what they did. Let's say there is a pedophile that is trying to harm a children. Are you going to do nothing? Are you not going to harm the pedophile? Now, you probably understand that it's not really the fault, whatever fault means, of the pedophile. Is probably sick. It's a mental condition. It's a medical condition. And we understand that it all originates from the Big Bang. It's a series of events starting from the Big Bang to now that produced a situation where there is this individual that has some medical condition that makes him desire to, let's say, harm children. So it's not his fault, but it doesn't matter, because probably we care more about protecting the children than about protecting the pedophile. But we don't really judge the reality. It's not that we say there shouldn't be pedophile or there could be not pedophile. I mean, there must be a reason why they are here, just like everything is there because of the big, starting from the Big Bang, a long chain of causality. What is there is there. And there also are pedophiles. There is no alternative reality where they are not. There is just this reality where they exist. And we cannot really blame them. We cannot really judge them. Because at the end, if we had their body, their parents, their experience, they went to their school, had their trauma, maybe they have specific trauma, we had their trauma, if we were them, we would probably do the same. But does that mean we like what they do? Does that mean we accept what they do? No. We can very well decide to protect the child and hurt them, like put them in jail, or for sure defend the children. So again, the judgment is the idea that things could have been different, should have been different, whatever. It just doesn't make sense. There is no need to do conscious effort to not judge or to believe that we should not judge. It doesn't make any sense. We don't judge just because we realize that judgment is a story, is the result of a story. There is a story which produces an imagined reality. We compare the imagined reality with the reality, and then we judge the reality by saying it's worse than the imagined reality. We compare, and then we feel bad. That's the judgment. That's all there is to it. Even the idea of judging an individual doesn't make sense, because the individual is not separate from its environment. So there is no point where the individual becomes some kind of independent. It's completely connected to the rest of its environment. But we can, of course, act. We can dislike what is happening. And if we dislike it, we can take action. We can hurt the pedophile, and we can protect the children. But we are not judging him, or we are not judging reality in general. We are just saying, well, I really don't like this. I'm going to do something about it. But it's not that we believe that it's wrong, because what does wrong mean? Because to believe that something is wrong, we must believe that there is an alternative, because that's really what wrong implies. It's like, if you believe that something is wrong, you believe that there is an alternative. But what's the alternative? It's like what we experience now is a continuous causality from the Big Bang. There is no point where it forks into. It's just a continuous causality. So what does wrong mean? It's like we are in the wrong reality, but wrong compared to what? Like there is another reality that is right. There is just this reality. And it originates from the Big Bang, and it continues from all the way from here, from there to here. So the idea that something is wrong, the idea of judging, doesn't make sense, because it implies that there will be a different reality that we can compare with. And to some extent there is, but it only exists in our imagination. So the only alternative reality we can use to compare is in our imagination. So we compare reality with imagined reality. The story produced imagined reality, and then we compare reality with imagined reality. But that's it. That's all we do. So it doesn't make sense to say something is wrong. There is nothing wrong with what we see, but it's not wrong just because there is no alternative reality in which it doesn't happen. There is just this reality where it happens. However, we may still profoundly dislike what is happening, and we may very well do something about it. So we may protect the child and hurt the pedophile, or at least stop him. But even we want to harm him, maybe, why not? But not because we feel some need that we need to get some revenge, or it's terrible. It's like, because we feel that it's what we want to do. We feel it's the right thing to do, whatever right means, but we feel like doing it. We feel like protecting the children, and we feel like ensuring that the pedophile doesn't do it again. We may record it and then send it to the police, or maybe some guy may even kill the pedophile. I mean, not that I'm recommending that for sure, but it's just an example. The idea of non-judging doesn't mean that we are okay with whatever is happening. Well, to some extent, what does it even mean to be okay or not? It's like, because if there is only one thing happening, how can you not be okay? So it's more about liking or disliking. So sometimes we really like what is happening, and sometimes we really dislike what is happening. But that's really all there is to it. But if we dislike what is happening, then we can very well intervene. We can very well do something to stop what is happening. If we have enough power to stop it, we will then act and stop what is happening. But it doesn't mean we judge what is happening. We just act to stop what is happening if we don't like it.